Okay, Miss
All
Margaret,
right.
thanks for taking the time out today to help my students.
Is this on?
Let's get the ball rolling with this as my first question.
You want this on?
It is on. Is it? Is it
Oh
on?
yeah, it is on.
Yeah. Yeah,
Okay.
You're doing good.
Okay. Your first
Okay.
question.
First question. Just give me your story. How did you get started in this business?
Oh, that's real simple and fun. I was an accountant, and my supervisor had 3-inch long nails. This was back in the early 80s.
Okay.
And I'm also an artist. So I saw her nails and I said, oh, I want to paint pictures on her nails. So she and I went to school together. And requirements and took my license, and now I'm doing it.
And you've been doing this? Okay.
Yeah.
Did you...
Well, when I first started out, it was strictly a hobby. It was something I liked to do after work, on the weekends. It was fun. I didn't want to really enjoy doing it. But after 8 years working as an accountant at UCLA, there was nothing I could do. Extremely helpful. That I came to the salon full time.
Integral part of what you needed to do to make it work?
No. Interestingly enough, my mother suggested when I told her I wanted to do nails full time, she suggested that I take a business plan class. And so she contacted me with the Small Business Administration. And they had a class that was 1 night a week for 12 weeks. And I'm really glad I did it because it helped me understand the mechanics of doing business. And the nails were the fun part, but I needed to make sure that I could make a living and know what it was going to take to do that. So that's why I took the business plan class.
Okay. And with that in mind, when did you, so you've always had the distinction of being an artist and a businesswoman?
Yes. Yeah.
Because I know one of the things I normally ask and try to find out is when do you make that distinction from which is which? You know, the artist that you are and the businesswoman that you are. But you've been lucky enough to have the business class early enough, so you understood from the get-go what it meant to be a business person and how to make this thing go. Okay, great.
Yeah.
What were your goals? I mean, now that you have your own salon, how did you progress through the business from when you started?
When I started, I actually started in a salon that had commission. And that was for about 6 months. But one of the things that I realized at that point for me was that I could actually make more money if I rented as a booth renter versus commission, because I did a lot of add-ons that nobody else in the salon could offer. So I brought something else to the table that was unique. So I left that salon and was a booth renter in a small salon. And that was quite rewarding. I loved it, and I could control my own salary. I could control my prices, the products I use, and eventually, that was the salon I went into full time when I was doing full time. Well, the lady that owned the salon was moving out of state, so I bought the salon from her, and that's how I became a salon owner. And all the things that I did in that business plan really kicked into play when I became a salon owner, because you've got different expenses that you have to meet as an owner versus a booth renter.
Right.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay. How are your goals as a salon owner? I mean, like the goals you have for your business and growing and developing and marketing your business. How do those goals differ from your personal goals? And by personal goals, I mean, exit strategies, when you want to get out of the business, the things you want to do individually. Talk a little bit about how those things are different.
Well, in the salon, my goal number one is to service my clients to the best that I can, give them the best service. Then, as a salon, I also have a goal to teach. I love teaching. I actually have classes in the salon and online. Now, how those goals transfer into my personal life is, and an exit strategy is duplication. So in my teaching, I endeavor to not only teach people, but also to teach them to do what I do, so that they can eventually work for me
Mm-hmm.
and create another income stream so that I'm not in the salon as much.
Gotcha.
I'm also looking to develop a product line that develops nail art kits with tutorials
Mm-hmm.
so that they're out there earning income for me even if I'm not in the salon. I'm very strong on having several streams of income. So you never just lock yourself into what can I do behind the chair. When I'm even in the salon, I've got several streams of income all around me that bring in income whether or not I'm servicing somebody or not. And then I also want things that earn money for me when I'm on vacation even.
When it comes to your team, have you, from a structure standpoint, when did you realize you needed to put together a team? And by team, I mean insurance, an insurance agent, an accountant, or maybe you're probably accounting background, you may do that yourself. But an accountant, maybe someone on the legal side. When did you get the understanding that you needed to have these other pieces in place to kind of have this whole development come together?
I think the first thing that got my attention to look in that direction was time management. I have an accounting background and I enjoy doing my books. I enjoy posting my income and keeping track of receipts, but I don't understand everything there is about taxes, so that's why I have a CPA. I put everything together to give to my CPA and I have an understanding of what I've handed over, but I need the expertise of somebody else to make it into a cohesive unit for for tax purposes and things like that. Through working with my clients, I have a diverse client base. So in that group, I've got an attorney. In that group, I've got a financial planner who's also an insurance agent. So in dealing with people one-on-one, you find out, oh, this person does that. Let me add this person to my team. And you have that relationship built already, so there's trust.
Gotcha.
And then they have the expertise that I don't have.
Gotcha. And how long have you had the team in place?
I would have to say for accounting, that team has been in place ever since I've been doing nails. I've always had somebody else do my taxes. I think I've stepped it up to a more professional level within the last 10 years. Now it's a CPA that actually does the taxes. As far as insurance, that has always been in place. I've always had to have some type of insurance for the salon, but then looking at life insurance for me, I probably put that in place maybe about 15 years ago. Yeah.
Okay. Now, you said you started in a commission structure, and seeing how the nail business is a little different when it's from an operating standpoint, what would you suggest for a young person that's getting ready to move into a salon? Let's say we've got a salon where they've got an available chair. Would you suggest that person negotiate a commission position and have the funds flow through the salon, or would you suggest that person start with a booth rent type of arrangement and get their own products? And what would be your suggestion for someone who wants to get started on the nail side and kind of figuring out, okay, well, how do I do it in a salon that's saying you can do whatever you want in this chair?
From my own experience, I would say that has a lot to do with that person's temperament. Because I've always been a self-starter or motivator and always colored outside the lines. So fitting into a commission structure was hard for me. And that's why I only did it for a short amount of time, just to get my feet wet, see what the salon environment was about, how things were run. And once I got an idea of what was going on, as far as, you can do this many clients in a day, generate this much income, for me, it just made more sense. But if a person is not so much a self-starter, but they like more of a structure, I would highly recommend going in on commission, because then they don't have the expense of product overhead. Basically, they're exchanging a certain amount of their time for a percentage of what they produce. But they don't have to worry about, do I have all the latest color polishes, or what line of products am I using, acrylics, silk, or gels, whatever you're using. You're not responsible for that. And like I say, it's temperament for that. For me, in my salon, I do have somebody that works here as a booth renter, and she is completely responsible for her prices, her products, her hours. We do have, common ground areas where that apply to the business, but as far as how she runs her business, it's on her. But if I were to bring somebody in commission, that means they have a lot more regulations to follow, as far as we're going to use only this line, or we're going to work these hours and things like that. So I think it really depends on the temperament of the person.
Gotcha. From a mentorship standpoint, I know you said you've got a young lady that's on booth runner commission. Have you found that a lot of the young nail techs are looking for mentorship
Yes.
and growth? Because in that same scenario we're talking about, if you got a person that says, hey, you can do whatever you want with that chair, and you want to work in a commission arrangement, it becomes now incumbent upon them to get out and figure out, okay, well, what do I need? What products am I going to use?
Yeah.
What makes sense?
Yeah, yeah.
That kind of thing. Do you enjoy the mentorship part of it?
Yeah, and that's one of the unique things that I like to offer to people that work with me, whether it's commission or booth rent. If you work alongside me, I'm an open book. Everything I do is available to you. I will show you everything that I know how to do. It's not only just nail techniques or artistic techniques, but business, because I've got a wealth of information that I've paid for. But if somebody's willing to sit down here next to me and pick my brain, they've got it. They've got it.
What do you feel from the nail side, this industry? I know it's a little different on the hair side. What do you feel the industry lacks, especially with its current migration of the Vietnamese? What do you feel that part of the business is lacking and that customers are still looking for as far as growth?
I think that what's lacking is a willingness to educate the consumer. It's kind of iffy because right now a consumer can go into a Sally's Beauty Supply or a Target or a Walmart and buy nail polish and even buy a gel polish system, but they don't have the education.
Right.
And people have always painted their nails on their own at home with regular polish, no problem. But when you start getting into treatments that require a technical skill to remove it and apply it, and there's no education behind that, and the consumer is not educated, then you're going to see, as I've seen, you see a lot of problems. People coming in with damaged nails because either they went to a salon where the tech was not professionally educated and they damaged the nail, or they tried it themselves at home and they damaged their nails, and they want you to fix it in an instant, which you can't. When one of the things that we do when clients come in here is we educate them on everything we do, from the time that we start spraying sanitize, or how we're taking the polish off, or how we're taking the gel polish off, or how we're even applying it. We explain, this is what I'm doing and this is why I'm doing it, so that they're educated. When they get a pedicure, they need to know there's a reason why we use disposable files.
Right.
They understand why we disinfect our pedicure tubs, so that when no matter where they go, now they're educated to look for that. And I think that with the influx of a salon on every corner that's not following standards, you have an uneducated clientele that's highly at risk.
Yeah, that's true. What are your views on the YouTube generation of education?
Love it. I love it. And the reason why I say that, it's a double-sided sword, but I love it because, for me personally, there was a technique that I wanted to learn years back that the only class in my area that taught it was during the day, during business hours, which means I would have to shut down. My clients would not receive their scheduled services so that I could learn this technique. And it was going to take 4 days. I actually went on YouTube, found that technique, practiced it, and practiced on my own, and I got it. I think it's a way to reach out to our consumer base, and I think there's a value in it for the professional as a tool to educate the consumer base. You don't have to necessarily give away all your professional secrets or techniques on a YouTube video, but you can give enough so that the customer that's looking at it, or the consumer that's looking at it, says, hey, that looks interesting. Let me go to that salon and get the full service.
What advice would you give to the young folks that are just starting their careers?
Number one, business plan. Number one, even if you're doing it part-time, because one of the things that I have seen it and I've heard it from people that are successful, you've got to wrap your head around those numbers. You have to, because otherwise, and this was a great example of one of the ladies that worked with me. When she first came to work with me, she was charging, I think, $15 for a fill. It's ridiculous. When I told her, I said, I want you to break down how much time it's taking you to do that service, what the products you're using, and how much it costs you to deliver that service, and you come up to what you netted in that hour and a half to do that. You came out with $2. So was it really worth it? But she didn't know that. She was basing her price on what she thought somebody would be willing to pay her, not the value of what she was bringing to them. So you get those kind of that kind of information from a business plan. When you do your cost analysis, you've got to put your time in on that. That's number one. Don't play with this, because and on the other side of it is, if you go out there and you say, okay, I'm going to do fill for $50, but you don't understand why you're charging 50. It just sounds like a good number. And when your client challenges you on why you're doing $50 fills, you can't tell them. Just by saying, it doesn't sound good to me, it's not going to fly. It's not going to fly.
Yeah. Yeah. And do you think your clients respect and understand those numbers once you explain it to them?
Oh yeah, they do. They do.
Because I know people tend to think there's a price threshold, and there is to a large degree. But if you're justified and understand why you're charging what you're doing, and your client doesn't feel you're taking advantage of them in that, they're usually willing to pay the price because they understand. Most of them understand the cost of doing business and overhead.
Yeah, that's right.
That makes sense.
That's right. That's right.
Okay, last question. Knowing what you know now, what would you have done differently?
What would I have done differently? I think I probably would have expanded my salon and had more people work with me. I was late into that realm. I worked by myself for maybe 20 years as solo. That's it, just me. And it was great, my own little bubble. But looking at it in hindsight, and now having to work with me, I think I would have expanded to have maybe 4 to 6 to 8 stylists working with me, so that would have built a larger retirement nest egg.
Okay, great. Well, thank you very much. I appreciate you doing this for us.
You're welcome.
All right.